Hello and welcome to the Table Talk Wednesdays here at the CDL Café, where leadership isn't just talked about, it's challenged. This isn't your typical leadership conversation. This is where we gather around the table every week to ask hard questions and put character back to the center of how we lead. Sometimes it's just us, the team, sharing real reflection, and sometimes we pull up an extra seat for a guest whose voice brings fresh perspective, bold insight, and lived experience to the table. Because around here, we believe leadership that isn't rooted in character won't last. Leadership that doesn't challenge the system won't change it. And leadership that's all image and no substance isn't leadership at all. So grab your coffee, lean in, and let's get into today's table talk. Let's go.
Welcome to the cafe.
Thank you. I feel like I should have had my cup of tea or something, like we were about to, sit on the porch and spill some tea and some nuggets and all that good stuff.
Exactly. That's the ritual that we have at the cafe. So I hope that you're having your tea with you.
We got some water.
All right. All right. So you're not a coffee lover, huh?
No, I will drink tea, and the only time I want coffee is when I smell someone brewing fresh coffee, and then I'm like, I want a cup of coffee. But other than that, I am not one that has to wake up first thing in the morning and grab that cup of coffee. No, my high is just waking up in the morning and going. So I don't need that caffeine to get me going.
Awesome. Well, trust me, you're gonna smell this coffee brewing very soon.
Excellent.
Awesome. All right, so this is not a typical interview or show or webinar or whatever. We are here gathering at the cafe. We are sharing perspective around hot topics that is related to the beautiful principle called leadership, and especially the character-driven leadership, because our intention is to reveal the character within every true leader. So we always say that we help you to become a VIP leader, a leader who walks with values, integrity, and principles. And so with that being said, you are our guest on the table, and we would love to know, who is Chef Kitura?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you all for having me here on this Wednesday afternoon in the CDL Cafe. Chef Kitura. I am a former executive assistant, and as we know, life is lifing. And back in 2019, when everybody was doing their vision boards and I'm gonna have the year of clarity, 2020 year, everybody, as I say, the year of clarity, right? We had a perfect vision, and little did we know that COVID was going to shift our lives more than we anticipated. So I had already been in the culinary arena, catering on a part-time aspect. My youngest son was playing travel baseball, and with that, there's additional expenses that are incurred, and so I went back to my love, what my grandmother taught me, how to cook. So my love for cooking comes from my grandmother. And 2020, fast forward, and I lost my employment in April of 2020. And that was twice in a 5-year period that my employment was affected. And I said to myself, if my life is going to be affected by something, I want to have a little bit more control than someone saying, hey, because of business, we're going to have to limit your position. So if I'm going to get fired, it's going to be from me. I'm going to have to fire myself. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger, and I have been a private chef and full service caterer in the metro Atlanta area for the last 5 years, successfully building my business, growing my business, and scaling my business. Sometimes I tell people to think of me as their ace, the author, the chef, and an entrepreneur. So back in 2022, I became an author, wrote my first book, Grandma's Hands, talking about where my love for cooking comes from. And of course, I'm a chef and then an entrepreneur. So you can call me your ace. So,
I love it.
that is Chef Kitura. So for me right now, it's what can I do to be able to not only grow my business and leave a legacy, but have some type of impact on the community and where we are right now, especially in the environment that we're in.
I have a
Great,
question for
great.
you, Chef Kitura. Do you also are empowering women, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. What
Yeah.
motivates you? What personal story motivates you to encourage women?
So one of the things the reason why I want to encourage women, I look at myself as a female chef, and we as women, we still have to fight and struggle to have our seat at the table in the culinary arena. And when we think about it, growing up, who was in the kitchen cooking? Grandma, my dear, whatever your terms of endearment are for our ancestors, whether it was your aunt, your grandmother, and if you go by tradition, the husband was out in the workforce and the woman was at home cooking, taking care of the household. So if we're good enough to make sure that your home is taken care of and cooking, why is it that we're still having to fight to have our seat at the table in the culinary arena? So it's still male dominated. So I want to be able to encourage women and empower women, especially women after 50, because that was me. I turned 50 in 2020. So now we're looking at double nickels right now. I'm 55 years old and having to say, wow, you made a career shift. And it wasn't because of, what's the word that they say, midlife crisis. It wasn't due to midlife crisis. It was due to something that I had no control over. So being able to let women know, it doesn't matter what age you are, you deserve that and then some. So that's one of the reasons why that I have started encouraging women, especially in the workforce and from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Thank you so much. I love it because it's true. It's so much impact, right? When sometimes, no matter how old we are, we think that we need to start over again. And that's absolutely not true because we bring something else into the table. A lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, wisdom, a lot of pain also that turn into purpose, right? Or growth. So
Yep.
sometimes I think that it just resonates so much with me because I experienced that 2 years ago. It was my decision, jump into my purpose, my call, and I say, it's perfectly fine. Why not, right? You can have
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
beautiful, powerful. People know you will say it doesn't matter because when your purpose is higher, you have to just take the leap of faith.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Thank you so much.
So, Chef Kitura, you're drinking tea, right?
Yeah, yes. Yes.
So, based on our topic today, we're talking about the illusion in leadership, the comparison between is leadership power or is it responsibility? It's power versus responsibility. So, again, what comes with a drink that we serve to our guests in the coffee shop, it comes with a question related to the topic that we have chosen. And so I'm going to start this conversation with this question. Why do you think that many people equate leadership with power and control?
The title. I think about growing up as a child, and when we look at who was the leader in our home, in our household, who had control when we get our first job, who has leadership, who has control. But I think there's a misconception that they are the same. Someone can have, so I'm going to start using some cooking terms to break it down in layman's terms.
This resonates. It resonates with the cafe. Please do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So you're in the kitchen and you've got your sous chef, right? You can ask your sous chef to preheat your oven to 350. Your sous chef has control of the oven because you've asked them preset that oven to 350. But as the executive chef, I have the power because I've instructed them to do this, and I'm operating that entire kitchen. When you have power, you have to have a specific mindset to where you can give someone control over whether it's operating that oven, operating that mixer, operating that protein that you have to prep. So you're giving instruction, but as the executive chef, I have the power to do certain things. Sometimes people think that they are one and the same. And there are sometimes when that same individual has the same. They have the control and they have the power, but you have to know how to effectively be that person in control. If that person that I have in that person in power, if that person in control of the oven, even though I've said preheated to 350, if they move it to 375, and now we have to prepare a dish that should have been set at 350, that ruins the whole dish. So in leadership, you've got power, you've got control. I want to be that person to, with power, instruct those who have control on how to effectively move with purpose, how to effectively understand just because they have control, they still have to have processes in place to achieve the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is to be able to give your client that unforgettable experience, that unforgettable meal. And if all of the check marks are not done properly, you ruin the meal. So you have when you have the control and when you have the power, you have to be able to differentiate and say, okay, yeah, I've got the power, but now I'm going to give control to this person to do X, Y, Z, give control to this person to do X, Y, and Z. And you have to be, make sure you have the right people in place to have those controls.
I love the way you put it. I love the metaphor. And I think what you're talking about, like how you structured everything, I think that this is your responsibility as a leader. Because today we're talking about the illusion between power versus responsibility. So many people
Right.
think that leadership is only power and control. So my question was, why do you think that people equate leadership with power and control rather than responsibility? Because what I heard from your answer, you are a responsible person who's taking care of all these details. So here we're talking about the illusion that leadership is only power and control. Why people equate leadership with power and control? That was the question. But what you have just said took the question or took the answer to a different dimension, which is great, because what you shared shows how responsible you are towards what you're doing, and directly answering the question from your game, let's say, or from your knack zone. But again, like, why do you think that people only think that leadership is power and control? That's the real question.
Well, I think we're human. We're human, and people think what they have been programmed to understand. So going back to as a child, we have been conditioned to certain things that we're taught throughout childhood, throughout our lives when we start working. And the first thing that we think is power, control, and the responsibility falls on us as society. So you've got social media that is giving the illusion of X, Y, and Z. Social media, all of that plays a factor. And if, we think about individuals that, if you think about, and if someone took the time to look at their phones to see how much screen time they spend on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and you look at the screen time, that's where most people are getting all of their information from. So that's where sometimes the misconception about responsibility and leadership and why people think the way that they think. We have to do it better when we do have platforms of informing individuals, right? It's our responsibility because it's the know, like, and trust factor. When people know you, when they like you, when they trust you, you can say the sky is red and it can be as blue as day, but they can look at it and they say, oh no, she might be right. I do see a hint of red there, because you've already developed that relationship, you've already developed that rapport with that individual. So that's why, in my opinion, and it's just me, people think the way that they think. They've been programmed, and they see someone that they know, like, and trust. And it's up to those people, when we have these platforms and the individuals that have the power and have the control, we need to do a better job of making sure that we are delivering the correct information so that people understand whatever message we're trying to relay when it comes to specific things.
Awesome. Dr. McKinsey, I saw you nodding your head when the Kitura spoke about the processes, and I know that you love this stuff. So,
Well, yeah, definitely. But I'm gonna push back on you a little bit about there not being responsibility not being talked about when it comes to when it comes to leadership and responsibility, because I know when I grew up learning, and even in corporate America, and even from from my household, it was taught that with great power comes great responsibility. So the responsibility came along with power, it came along with leadership. And it may not be said, but to me, I feel like it is something that is, I won't say understood, but it's something that I do believe needs to be emphasized a lot more. Um, because I don't think that those in leadership understand. Well, I believe they understand the power, but they don't understand the responsibility. In the book that I wrote on leadership, I talk about that very thing. People not understanding what leadership means, and leadership means what we're talking about here today. It means power, because you have power, as Chef was talking about. It's a lot of power in that. When you're running, if you're running an organization, if you're running a household, that's power, because you have to have an understanding of telling people, a responsibility to tell people, kind of direct people, I don't say tell people, direct people, kind of the things that need to be done, how they need to be done. She gave the perfect example of the sous chef. Hey, I need you to put the oven on 350 so that it can be preheated for what we're cooking today. But she already knows, hey, what that recipe calls for, what she's fixing. The sous chef may or may not know it already, but she does, because she's taking the time as the leader to know what it is that the results that she needs. And the result she needs is, hey, I need that food to go in the oven at 350. And if it doesn't go in at 350, then it's not going to come out right, which means it's not going to be prepared properly for, for the client or for those that are going to be eating the food. Same as in our household with our parents. Our parents understood, yeah, we have to guide our children to a certain age so that they understand that they have the responsibilities that they have as a parent, and then the responsibilities that you may have in the house, as far as, let's say, chores. You may have the responsibility of washing dishes. You may have the responsibility of vacuuming or cleaning the bathrooms, whatever those are. But the parent is the one that has the overall power in the house. And now they may take they may take your feelings and all of that into consideration, but that's what comes with being a leader. You have to have you have the responsibility of people that depend on you, and you have the power to control the direction of the people that you are leading, and the responsibility of giving the people the power that you're leading as well. So that's what I was thinking about as she was talking.
And I agree with you. I agree with you. You brought up when we were growing up, right? I mentioned my fabulous age, right? We're living in a different time, a different society. And although I agree with you 100%, because, in my household, it was, wake up on Saturday mornings and you did your chores and everything, right? So we grew up in a different age, a different time, to where, and no shade on the young, what are they? Is it Gen Z? Yeah, I get
I know
confused.
I get them mixed up too, Chef.
Um, so some of
Yes,
them,
yes.
you know, you ask them to do a chore, a household chore, and you say, okay, on Saturdays, this is your household chores, and you have dishes XYZ during the week. And some of them look at you and they're like, well, what about this? And at first I thought it was just me. Like my youngest son, you know, he looks at me sometimes when I ask him to do stuff like I have a third eye in the middle of my head. And then I start talking to parents our age, and they're like, oh no, that's my household too. So they have a different interpretation of life because we as parents, we want to make sure that we give them what we didn't have, so we overcompensate for certain things, and now they have that entitlement mentality. That's with regards to our youth. Fast forward to adulthood, there are still some adult, even our age, depending on their environment, they have that entitlement mentality. So there's where that whole responsibility comes into place as a leader. We have to, and it's hard right now, it's difficult right now because there's so many different elements being added into the recipe, right? Our ultimate goal is to make this real big what's one of the favorite, like apple pie, right? Peach cobbler. That's the ultimate goal, to make the best peach cobbler that you can. As a leader, and the responsibility is to make sure everybody's ingredient goes together to accomplish that, right? And if you've got somebody who's putting an ingredient, let's say black pepper, into that recipe, you're gonna mess it all up. So that's where the responsibility comes into play with leadership, making sure you've got the right people in place, the right pieces to the puzzle in place. And it starts from the mindset, understanding what the ultimate goal, what the ultimate picture is, and doing your part as a leader.
So I have a question for you, Kitura. How do you plan your week, for example? I mean, how do you lead your team, your sous chefs, your staff?
My
Do you
staff,
have meetings? Do you have daily conversations with them? Do you have correction plans? Do you have a roadmap? How do you lead them? In that way they can, with control, but control that connects, that listens, that respect, that create outcomes.
so it's important to listen to your team, right? When I was working in corporate as an executive assistant, my responsibility was to make the president of the company look good, which meant that the communication between the two of us had to be on point. The only way to do that is for when he's speaking, I'm listening. When I'm speaking, he's listening. Same with my team. As a CEO of All About the Minis, and as I operate my business, and when I'm speaking to my team, I've got to be able to relay the ultimate picture. Case in point, this coming weekend, we have an event on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So we got an event Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday is prep day and another event on Thursday. So we don't have a whole lot of time to goof off. Our time management skills have to be on point, which means it starts with me on my delivery, being able to lay everything out. Here's the event on Sunday. This is what time the event starts. And I work backwards. Here's what time we need to have everything set and ready to go. How long is it going to take us to get set and ready to go? Okay, 2 hours, boom. So if it's 3 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we need to be at the location, ready to unload, blah, 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 right? So that by 3 o'clock, we're ready to go. Now from 1 o'clock, how long is it going to take us to get to that location? 45 minutes? Oh, you're in Metro Atlanta area. You better give yourself another 30 minutes because you never know what traffic is going to be like. So now you've got an hour and a half that you have to factor in for travel time. Okay, great. Now, from that hour and a half, how much time do we need to load the truck to get all of this stuff on it? So it's a process that we have to do. And I don't start from what time we need to start that morning. No, we got to start from what time do we have to be what we call RTS, ready to serve. So ready to serve, and if they want to eat by 3, we need to be ready to serve by 2:40, no later than 2:45. And the only reason why I don't say 2:30 is because some of the stuff can only be out in the element for health reasons. You know, you got a 2-hour window before you need to replenish or whatever. So you got to, and if you're doing a charcuterie, you got meats, you got cheeses. So now you got that out sitting, and the temperatures may not favor being able to sit out that long. So, 2:45, you need to be ready to serve. And then we back up the timeline from there. So when I'm communicating with my team, all right, how many servers do I need? How many sous chefs do I need to assist me in getting, and keep in mind, we've got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's back to back to back. So Friday and Saturday, our prep needs to be for each one of those assignments because we're not going to have a whole lot of window time in between. How much on this particular event can we prepare in advance? So each one of those events, I have to do a charcuterie display for. Well, you can't cut fruit too far ahead. It's going to start to get dried out and spoil. So now it's the time management of all of that. And I need to be able to communicate to my team that say, some of them have other jobs. Okay, what day do you work? Okay, cool. I need to be, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? Can you be here at this time? And, communication is key. Communication is key. And in this arena, I know all my client cares about is, are you there on time? And does the food taste good? And was your display that experience that you promised, right? They don't care about nothing else. So I need to make sure that my team has the same values that I have, and they too want to deliver that ultimate experience that I've promised the client that they will receive.
That's exactly what I'm going to do next. The values, those values that you cultivated and you also transmit to your staff and to the final product, right? The taste, the experience, the memory. So what are those values?
What are my values? What day of the week is it? No, my values are community, making sure that what I've promised to the client is delivered. So customer service is big, really, really big on my list of things to do. And I value So faith, customer service, making sure that my team is taken care of and that my team feels valued. Because when you respect your team, if I want respect from my team, I've got to give it. I've got to give it. And making sure that they feel that respect. Because when they feel it, they're going to go over and that we're delivering the ultimate experience.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yes, this is wonderful.
So now we agreed that leadership is more like when we were talking about the illusion between power versus responsibility, it's related to what you and Dr. McKinsey were talking about earlier about the generation, because they received this misconception that leadership is power, leadership is control. But what I sensed from our conversation is that responsibility comes first. Under responsibility, there's the effect of the power and control. Because so many leaders today are so-called leaders, let me say. They're defining leadership as power and control for their own interest. So to me, in this, there is no responsibility. That's what we were talking about.
Yes. So there are some elements, some pieces to the puzzle. There's some things happening behind the scene that we don't know about. There's information that's being withheld that we're not aware of. Since we're talking about what's happening in life in today's society, the elements that's happening, there are people who are in control. They have no, they're not being responsible. It's selfishness. It's narcissist. And they are not, when in, all right, look, I don't have my tea, but I do have my water. So let's
Take your
just go,
time.
right?
Take
And
your
this
time.
goes back to responsibility on our part too. We had a responsibility to put not just on the upper right now, but it starts from the lower. Our responsibility is when we are putting people in office to do our due diligence and make sure we go out and vote. Some people they didn't understand the assignment to go out and vote. Some people just did not vote. There are some people who, even given all of the pertinent information, they didn't do their due diligence to research. So now we are where we are. And we have to swallow that turpentine, right? Part of it is we fumbled the ball with the responsibility. We fumbled the responsibility ball. Now that is in place, What do? We can sit and be upset about it. We can have our conversations that we're having now. And with these conversations, what responsibilities are we going to accept to make a change? So, yeah, there are people in office, and it's like, I'm going to go a step further. Going back to the male female, if there was a woman in office holding that seat right now, doing all the shenanigans that's going on, she would no longer be in office. She would no longer be in office, period. You got this person that has all of this power, has all of this control, and is being very irresponsible. And it is affecting lives, millions and millions of lives, not just from a there's several. There's loss of employment. That, and I'm gonna tell you, there are people that voted that didn't realize what that vote meant. They didn't understand the ramifications that were going to come with it. That, oh, that meant that my employment could be affected too. What? My household could be affected too? What? My parents just lost their Medicare, Medicaid? I didn't know. I didn't know that that was going to affect me, because you had the responsibility to do your due diligence and read and understand what this meant. But because you didn't want a woman in office, to me, that's some of where that came from. You don't want a woman in office, so you're going to vote for this individual. And now look where we are. So because we still do have power, we may not have control right now. We still have power, because even though we've got so many years left, there's still things happening at the lower level, at the local level. Make some change in your hometown. Start in your own backyard. That goes up from there. And that's great, because right now there's so many things that, and I'm gonna tell you, there's some things that are happening. I call them shenanigans, and I'm like, they're putting their, it's a distraction. It's a distraction from what they're really trying to do, and we can't get lost in the sauce. Keep our eye on the prize, get through where we are right now. But start in our own backyard. Do your research, do your due diligence on where we can go from here. So, and I'm not sure if that's where you were going. So I've, with regards to leadership and control and responsibility. But yeah, that's where I am with that.
Thank you for sharing this. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the thing about, we're talking about the illusion of leadership and power and control. When you have someone who doesn't truly understand what leadership is, what responsibility is, and what power is, or they do, and they are more on the side of, hey, I have power and I don't care about responsibility. I don't care about my responsibility to anybody but me. And when you have someone like that that is in leadership, it can it will create chaos everywhere. Try being, and I've
Mm.
talked about I've talked about my corporate experiences before, where I've worked for people that I know that they were on a power trip, if you will. To them it was about, I have control here. I can tell you, I can control. When you have somebody tell you that you will never be promoted into a position as long as they are there, that is their use of power. That is them saying, I don't care about responsibility, or I'm going to be responsible for making sure that you don't move ahead. And when you have someone like that that is in leadership, they may not be a leader, but they are in leadership. And there's a difference. When they are in leadership, they can have that power, and they can abuse the power and negate any responsibility that comes along with it, because that's not what their intention of using or utilizing of being in their position. It's about using the power that they have in the position that they're in, more than anything else.
Love it, love it. Well, this is what we are, that's why we're talking about this topic, because it's important to highlight on the importance of putting responsibility first. You know, because so many people have power, have control over certain things, but it cannot be effective enough, or you cannot get the right result that you want unless you have responsibility and knowing how to, delegate the work, if we can say. Like, the first thing you spoke about, Chef Kitura, is the delegation work to the right people. You know, you have the power, and you delegated the work to the people who have control over the machine or the thing that they're responsible for. You know, but if responsibility is not there, power and control can be disaster.
Sure.
I don't know if you agree. So that's what we wanted to highlight on this talk, to show the importance of it, because I believe that the Generation Z got it all wrong. Today, social media and media are talking about leadership as it is power, it's control. It is power and control to a certain extent, but responsibility comes first,
But let me let
right?
me ask you let me ask you all this, you and Chef Couture, because you all were the two that talked about the difference in the generations. Whose responsibility was it to teach Gen Z about putting responsibility first, and understanding power, but putting responsibility first, so that they did know it and do know it moving forward?
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem,
Mm.
parents. That's the problem, because unfortunately, right now, I mean, they don't have the connection anymore. They are lose the connection. Sometimes parents come and say, "I cannot handle my kid." How old is your kid? 13 years old. Come on, 13 years old. 13 years old, you know.
Right,
So
right,
these
right.
are gonna be the leaders for tomorrow. So how we're feeding
Hmm.
their mind, their heart, their soul, how we are allowing them to go and do their own way, no respect, no discipline, no patience, it's our fault as a parents. It's not their fault. They are just imitating. So we have
Yeah.
to be very aware of this.
You talked about
Right.
they just imitate, right? I remember seeing this thing on social media, and it's, the parent in the car, and when they get to their destination, the kids in the back seat, and when, oh, the kids saying words, right? Cuss words, or their temper is off the chain, and the parent is like, where did this come from? And then you see the replay of the road rage from the parent with the foul language and all that other stuff, and it's like, kids demonstrate what they see. You know, they're and at young ages they're like a sponge, and they absorb everything that you do. They absorb everything that you say. And you know, sometimes when they initially start saying specific words, they just saying it. But when they hear it at certain times at the same time, they're like, oh, that word is used when this particular situation happened. Well, now you know where all of this came from. It's because they saw what you did. Same thing comes with racism. Children are not born in racism. It's what they see, it's what they're taught. You know, children are born innocent and pure, and it's our responsibility as parents to teach them how to be amazing human beings.
True, so true.
I think about when, you know, being a single mom raising a young man, and my responsibility was making sure that I had positive male role models in his life, from church to his baseball coaches to mentorships. And sometimes, you know, women say, you know, well, I raised him to be a great man. I've never been a man before. I've never been a young boy before. I have no idea what experiences this young boy has gone through. I don't know what physical changes his body is going through. So I can't begin to teach him what to do during those times, but I can teach him how to be a good human being.
But I think that's the final outcome. You know? We mistake many things, you know, like a mom raising a kid. I did also the same thing, but also a father raising a daughter. At the end of the day, we're going to have difference physically, you know, emotionally, you know, mentally. But at the end of the day, what are those, for example, principles, values, integrity? What are those elements that they're going to help this individual to really become the best human being? Not just a girl or a boy, but a human being. That's a huge difference right there.
Right. And we're saying the same thing. And I use my example because that was, you know, my household. But whether it's a father and a daughter, mother and a son, our responsibility as parents is to raise our children to be good human beings, so that they do understand when they do have control and they do have power, that responsibility comes along with that, and so they can understand what that means.
Great. So, Chef Kitura, from your experience, I want you to recall one moment that made you feel that leadership is a burden and it's not privilege. What can you share with us?
Leadership is a burden?
Yes, it's a burden, not a privilege, right? When we talk about responsibility. So like when was like a moment from your experience, whether it was at work, whether it was the time of the crisis, the COVID and everything going on, what was the moment that you can remember that made you feel that leadership was a burden, not a privilege?
So I'll use the example of I did have an event. It was a rather large event. And I had one of the servers to call out last minute. And there's now and it becomes a domino effect. Now everybody kind of has to shift to be able to accommodate that one element not being there. So to me, it was, along with everything else that I had going on, making sure that I pulled this event off flawlessly as much as possible. Now I've got to identify making that shift. And all right, who has the capacity to shift, and either I'm going to move this person over here, and now you're cutting this, and I'm going to move you. And that the person who called out was responsible for mixing the ingredients for the sauce that goes on the fish or whatever. That was a burden, because as the leader, you've already got so much on your plate, and to have to make that shift unexpectedly, that's a lot. Because keep in mind, you've already spent several days preparing for it, with the shopping, with the prior prep work, with the loading, with the unloading, with the getting to the venue, with the, getting all that stuff out. And then you have someone who says they're not going to be able to be there. So it's like, and then you want to say, so what else can happen? But I stopped saying that a long time ago, because we already know something else will happen. So you just say, okay. And I am a firm believer, when I cook, my energy needs to be at a certain vibration, because energy is transferred to your food. Whatever it is that you're doing, I got to be in the right mindset when I'm preparing for my guests. So first of all, it's take a beat, take a step back, assess the situation, because at this point, there's nothing you can do about that person not being there. You can't be upset with them. You can't do whatever. It's, what do I do going forward to still make this event successful? So you take a beat, realign the pieces to the puzzle. Now your puzzle picture looks a little bit different. Still got the ultimate goal, and make sure that at the end of the day, your client walks up to you and they say, wow, this was a wonderful experience. The food was great. Your team was great. And they're never aware that you didn't have that person there. So burden, yes. Burden, yes. Burden,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing all this. Of course, this discussion can go for long, but we have to stick to the time of the respect the time of everybody. I'm going to ask you one last question that I had in mind. Of course, Dr. McKinsey, Atala, if you have something again, just shoot before we go to the final ritual that we ask our guests for. My question is related to the character-driven leadership. And so when it comes to character-driven leadership, how can we redefine power in that, from this perspective, from a character-driven leadership point? How can we redefine power?
That's a good question. So I think sometimes people, it's either, what's the word I'm looking for? Emotions, like heart, your heart is not in it. So sometimes it's individuals think of power as, blinders on. It's right here. I can't have any feelings. I've got to march in a straight line. And then there's some people that it's emotion driven, period. It's going to take a collaboration of both to where you understand the responsibility of power, but you got to be able to have feelings, take other people's feelings into consideration, making sure that you are not just being selfish and thinking about yourself. You still want the ultimate goal, because with power, right, you are trying to achieve a specific goal. You want that specific goal, but you can't get there and not take other people into consideration when you're doing that. So it's going to take a blend, a combination of caring and power, caring and leadership. Get that perfect mesh together. That's what's going to have to happen.
Atala, what do you have to say?
I was just thinking like a leadership could be also like synchronicity between your heart and your mind. Because there are some decisions that have to be rational, but we have to always also understand the heart, the vibration that we were talking about too. Because from there, it's like there is more alignment, and control doesn't become control. It becomes connection.
Right.
It becomes leadership without even hard work. That makes sense. It becomes in alignment and the flow. People respect you more. People see your vision. You transmit different kind of energy also. So I would say that a synchronicity between mind and heart in leadership.
Dr. McKenzie.
Well, I would say I don't know if it needs to be redefined, because when you redefine something, you change the meaning of something. I believe we need to reimagine, which means we need to adjust the narrative that people are seeing in leadership, in power, and responsibility. If we can change that frame by which they're looking at it and they see it, then I think you get them to adjust to the meaning. Because I say this, words matter, words have meaning. They mean what they mean. They mean what they mean. We don't change the meaning of words because we've given them definition already. But what we can do is, like I said, we can reimagine what that is, because then we it's like a car being out of alignment. If it a car will shift to the left or shift to the right of its intentional, and it has to be taken in to be realigned so that it becomes straight again, so that the car will run straight and not to the left or not to the right. And I think we have to do that with leadership now and what we're doing, and understanding responsibility, understanding power, and being able to say, you know what, yeah, let's reimagine leadership with responsibility first. It doesn't move it anyway. It doesn't move power from the meaning of leadership and responsibility, but it puts it in the forefront versus not being talked about at all, or not being pushed further back. Because like I totally agree with you. I believe responsibility should come way before power. Because if you don't have any responsibility, then you'll have no boundaries when it comes to the power that you hold as a leader. So I think if we do it that way, I think that we begin to get our society back to where it needs to be, where it should be, and where it can be in the future.
Awesome. Well, we are hitting the hour. Thank you so much all for the input that you shared. And of course, the purpose of having such conversation is to bring awareness and just to let people know what is leadership is all about. And we need to bring leadership back to the center, or bring character back to the center of leadership.
You said a
Chef
keyword,
Kitura,
character.
yes, yes, that's the purpose of the character-driven leadership. Chef Kitura, as a ritual in our coffee shop, as like every coffee shop, when we have our guests, we love to hear from them, and also we love for them to keep their experience or their key message on the cafe's wall. So we have something called the leadership wall, and you have 30 seconds just to leave a note on the leadership wall for the next guests or the next audience, because this is going to be posted on our YouTube channel and social media platforms, being shared with others, because we believe that everyone's experience might, benefit someone else's journey in his or her life. So you have 30 seconds to leave a message on our leadership wall that will be posted on our platforms. What is your message?
My message is be the disruptor. Be the disruptor, and with that, understand the responsibility that comes along with it. Excuse me. Making sure you maintain your character. Be rooted in purpose, and with that power and with that control, you understand the responsibility that comes along with it. You can be the disruptor, because I think that we need that right now, but making sure that you are keeping in alignment with the responsibility, the control, and the power.
Thank you so much, Chef Kitura. You heard it from the ace lady. Be the disruptor. That's what I'm gonna call you from now on, right? The ace lady.
The ace
So
lady.
thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you so much for being with us.
Wonderful.
You're most
Thanks,
welcome.
Chef.
You're
Yeah,
most
thanks,
welcome.
Chef.
And this was the message. Don't forget to join us in the Facebook group. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more episodes and more messages to come. We have the LinkedIn page, our Instagram, and we are dedicated to help you become a VIP leader, a leader who walks with values, integrity, and principles. Until next week, lead with character.
Alright, that's it for this week's Table Talk Wednesdays. If this conversation sparks something for you, don't just scroll past it. We want you to share this with someone who leads or want to lead with character at the center. Also, we want you to drop your thoughts in the comments. Trust me, we read everyone. And if you believe that your voice could add something to this movement, don't hesitate to reach out. We will be back next Wednesday with another conversation that matters. Until then, lead with truth, lead with courage, and most of all, lead with character. Peace upon you.